Oh, did you? You want to start with that countdown video?
Yep.
You're live.
Yep.
Let's go for it. You're live. You can start, Oliver. You're live.
Welcome to the new era of the Global Speakers Advantage podcast. Hope you're doing pretty good wherever you are. This is a fresh beginning in our new studio, bigger, bolder, and wider. And today, we're going to be bringing to you some very exciting and amazing information and tips and tactics and strategies and secret on how you can excel and thrive in your professional speaking career. My name is Oliver and Sonia, and I'm the host. And joining me today in the studio is Sonia Dumas. And welcome to the studio, Sonia Dumas.
Hello, Oliver. How are you?
Pretty good, and I'm super excited in our new studio. How
I
are you
love
today?
it. I am
Yeah,
fabulous. I am fabulous. Let's get into this speaker world.
absolutely. So, my dear viewers, Sonia Dumas is a professional speaker. She is a member of the National Speakers Association, the Texas chapter, and a member of the National Speakers Association. And of course, we're going to be discovering so much about Sonia even as we unfold. Okay, Sonia, how do you feel? What do you have to tell our listeners even as we dive deeper on speak and profit and stop leaving money on the tables?
Uh-huh. I could talk for hours about stop leaving money on the table, but we don't have hours. We have a few minutes. And
Correct.
so one of the things speakers need to understand is we live in a new, what I call it, the social media economy. And the days of just doing one or two things to generate revenue, well, that's over. And so we're going to dive deep into understanding what it really takes to, beyond just being a speaker, being a successful business owner. Because speaking, talk to any professional speaker, they'll tell you it's feast and famine. It is great when the economy is great, and it is tough and ridiculously hard when the economy is going down. So we're going to talk about how to create really a multi-revenue business in a way that works for you and your audience. So that's where we're heading, Oliver. Are you good
Pretty
with
good.
that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I guess our listeners, our viewers all around the world, they're pretty ready with their pens and their notepads and their notebooks to take note because this is going to be game changing. Different. This is going to be game changing. And so straight away, Sonia, the speaking business is growing very fast. And according to the statistics from the National Speakers Association, it was stipulated that by 2025, this year, the speaking business is going to be worth over 4.6 billion US dollars. Now, looking at the trends and what is happening in the speaking industry, the disruptions happening all around the world, what do you have to say as a word of hope to people who are thinking about transitioning from corporate America, corporate wherever they are, into the professional speaking industry, and to those who have retired and they're considering the professional speaking as their newfound career path?
Right. Okay. All right. So let's get real really quickly. So one of the things you really have to understand. So let's talk to the person who has a job and you're like, oh, I'm tired of this. I want to have my own business. I want to be an entrepreneur. And that could be, I want to be a speaker and do other things. The thing is, you need to have some type of investment money set aside because you will blast through whatever savings you have quite quickly. Because if you're a speaker, you'll need things like your website, your speaker reel. You'll need graphic designers, video, and you can easily invest anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 in your first year as a speaker. So just know that you need to have some money set aside so that you're not stressed. Otherwise, you're going to be stressed out that money's not coming in. Cash flow is a big thing, right? So cash flow is king. So what you may need to do is do a transition where you slowly transition out of your job as speaking opportunities come up, as revenue starts coming in. Otherwise, it is a grind, it is tough, and you may have to go. There are speakers who have had to go back to a job because they ran out of money and things didn't move fast enough. So there's a reality to this business. So be smart about it. Have money set aside, because this is a business. It's no different than, I find it so fascinating when people come into the speaking business, they realize, oh my gosh, I have to invest money. I'm like, yeah, that would be like a restaurant owner opening a restaurant, be like, trying to open a restaurant. What do you mean I have to pay rent, and I have to pay for the chef, and I have to pay for food, and I got to serve people too? It's like, you're a restaurant owner. That's a part of the business. The business requires investments. And where there is a big wake-up call, especially it started in 2024, but now coming into 2025, the days of I'm just posting to social media and magical clients show up and all of a sudden everyone's following me and they're buying my products, those days are over. Social media is officially a real business. You got something to say about that?
I just love that. Like, right on, please. Right on. Yeah, I just love that.
Yes, and so this is about a reality check, but we're entrepreneurs. We are driven by something a little bit deeper. And even when we worked at our corporate jobs, we were really what I call intrapreneurs. We interacted even in our jobs in a way that was very autonomous and creative and forward thinking, but we kept getting hit with hierarchies and things like that. So
yeah, I love that. So when I listen to speakers, some speakers, when I ask some speakers, like I've been speaking for 15 years. I started my professional speaking in Cameroon in 2010. This is 2025, 15 good years down the line. And when I ask some speakers, what motivated you? What inspired you to take like professional speaking as a career? And when I listen to what some speakers say, I will feel like a little bit stressed out. Like, so your why of becoming a professional speaker is also very important. And it should not just be like a business, but it should be your passion. It should be like one of your mission, your core things you want to do here on earth. And I think with the coming of AI and everything is happening, we need speakers who are thought leader, because if any speaker that's not a thought leader, that's just leveraging on AI and helping using AI and other artificial intelligence to think for them alone, without them bringing in their true self, their own part of the game, they will definitely eventually just, get out of the game. Now, I want you, Sonia, what happened? What inspired you to become a professional speaker? What was your why of venturing into this prestigious and honorable career?
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't want to be a speaker, actually. I was hiding. I'm a behind the scenes person. So I have my career has been strategy, working behind the scenes, doing epic things, but I've never wanted the mic. Didn't care for it. I gave it to others. Yeah, you go for it. You talk. But I can talk for days. And so what ended up happening is I went down the consulting route of just being able to say, hey, as a business owner, how do you show up on social? How do you create great content? How do you strategize for how you grow your business? And through that, I ended up playing with AI very early. In March of 2023, I discovered things about AI that I guess most people didn't know at the time, as far as how to create your ideal client profile. I created an entire formula around that, and I started sharing with people what I was doing. And from that, introduction led to introduction. And next thing I know, I'm being asked to speak. And I was like, okay. And I'm all about, I rarely turn down an opportunity, because I look at it as, when an opportunity is showing up and it's in my lane, that's for me. So for me to turn it down, I was like, okay, they're not asking another person, they're asking me. So I was like, all right, let's do this. Not my first rodeo. And so I started, it's interesting. speaking, it wasn't the first time I spoke. When I spoke on the NSA national stage at Influence in 2024, that wasn't the first time. I actually spent a year prior speaking to the financial industry about cryptocurrency and blockchain, because AI and blockchain and digital assets, it's all one massive tech movement. But I spent a year giving presentations, 60, 90-minute presentations in front of the financial industry. And what I realized I was being trained to, or what I was learning was, can you show up in front of an audience? And for those who are in financial advisory, you know this. The audience is very stoic, no emotional reaction whatsoever. So in my personality, the first time I experienced it, I was like, am I doing something wrong? Am I off? But then after I gave the talk, it was like, oh, I really loved it. I was like, wow, I couldn't tell from your facial expression. I couldn't tell if you loved it, hated it, if I was going to be burned at the stake. I had no clue. But then I learned, as a speaker, you have to can you show up, speak with passion about your topic, and regardless of how the audience is necessarily reacting, especially if you're not there to trigger anyone, you're just presenting great information, then I realized I had to bring my energy. I couldn't worry about what I was seeing on faces, because I knew what I had to say, and what I was bringing to the table was dynamite. It was gold. And so from that, I just learned to show up. It doesn't matter who the audience is. I'm coming with my energy. I know my knowledge, and you're going to love it, or you're going to be like, ooh, okay, that was interesting. But usually they love it. And so when you talk about being passionate as a speaker, you really need to know your lane, your topic, your big why, what's your transformation, because that is going to fuel how you speak, how you show up. It's going to fuel your energy, and people are going to vibe with that. But if you are worried about, oh, well, that one person over there, they look like they're angry with me, and you can't be worried about all that. You don't know what's going on in their world. Like, it ain't about you. You ain't that important. Bad grammar, but you get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally relate with what you're saying, especially, Sonia, in your first year as a speaker. I think your first year as a speaker here in the United States was a little bit like my first 10 years as a speaker in Africa, like in Cameroon. I got into the hall to do talks and trainings, and some members of the audience, like, they were literally angry at myself. Like, probably when they were coming, they were expecting to see one giant Oliver show, and they came and saw a young little boy at the age of 21, 22, who was trying to, and that got me almost contemplating, like, why am I really doing this? And so the expectations, some of the expectations were really higher, because, like, when I started 15 years ago in Cameroon, Africa, I was literally one of the only person in my country doing this, like doing speaking. And I remember my parents told me that, hey, are you sure? Do you know anybody doing this? I was like, I don't know anybody. Like, my dad told me to asked me to become a medical doctor. I'm like, I don't want to be that, but I want to become a top global speaker. And I remember they just wished me blessings and all of that. But for the past 10 years, I did my talking around Cameroon, around Africa. You won't believe that I spent so much money, but I was not even able to make up to $1,000 for 10 years. 10 years. And the speaking industry in Africa is a different ball game, unlike here in the US. And this is actually like the heart of the speaking. Somebody listening to us right now in the US, and we want to give an advice to people out of the US. But again, let's focus on the market here in the US for a short while. Tell us, Sonia, what can an average speaker listening to us right now begin to do? What are the 3 things that every average speaker listening to us right now can begin to do to stop leaving money on the table?
Oh, my word. You said the average. I'd say all speakers, because the game has officially changed. So let's talk about the model of what the current model is, with most speaking for, I don't know, decades, right? Let's go back to like the 1970s. And what it is, so if you think of it as a pyramid, The major bottom portion, so 70% of most speakers earn their revenue from speaking. And then a small portion, like 30% at the top, they get their revenue from other things like coaching, consulting, their book. Maybe they have a community that they're doing. Maybe they have, mini courses. And so that's been the model that you get most of your money from speaking, and then a little bit of your money from other auxiliary things, right? And so that's been the model for so long, but it's also a very feast and famine model, because when you get 70% of your income or more from speaking, you are living in what I call an external economy. Your money is dependent upon everything going on globally, nationally in the economy. So when companies are doing well and the budgets are wide and open and they have like lots of money to be able to spend on events and speaking and training, guess what? It's a good time. But when the economy implodes or goes into a recession, like it always does, it's a cycle that can last. I think the last statistic I saw, I think it was like the last recession was like 14 years, or the longest one was a 14-year gap from recession to recession. But either way, figure every 7 to 14 years, there's going to be a contraction. That is like been since the beginning, right? So just recognizing you have to plan your business ahead of that. If the economy contracts and all of a sudden you're like, what do? You weren't planning. So as far as what to do, one of the things that we now can do in this social media economy with all the technology that exists, this would have been harder to do in the early 2000s. It's so much easier where you flip the model, where 30% of your income comes from speaking. 70% of your income needs to come from your courses, your community, your consulting. It needs to come from, maybe you do special live events. It needs to come from a paid membership to your newsletter, or I call it a think letter, because I like to say nobody needs more news, but your audience needs to be able to think, what do I do? And so what you have to do is monetize your content from the beginning. Not like, let me get on a couple of stages and let me get popular first, and then I'll monetize my content. You have to monetize your content now. That means across social, like what kind of, what kind of mini course can you create that is helpful? Because what happens is when you do get on a stage, here's what happens. You get on a stage, people are motivated. They love what you just said. And you're sitting there knowing that maybe you'll get 1 or 2 coaching, consulting clients, or 0. And people will say, oh my gosh, I love you. I want to follow you. Right. So they follow you on social, and they have nothing to continue the impact. And so I call it getting paid beyond the stage, because when they go to any of your social profiles, they should have the opportunity to continue working with you, hearing from you, experiencing the transformation that you create. And so that, like I said, that could be a community, that could be a course, that could be a paid newsletter, that could be an experience you have coming up. But most don't have that set up in advance. You have to have that set up before you go on a stage. So that way, I just spoke. They're going to go to my social profile, and they're going to have opportunities to be able to experience the transformation or continue the transformation. And realize it's not about you, it's about them. How do you continue the impact beyond the stage? Because usually what happens is the impact stops inside the room. It might lead out to the foyer where, there's a lunch, hey, networking. But then once they leave the building, impact stops. Like, that's the reality. And so think of yourself as a bit of like Niagara Falls, right? You have all of this dammed up content and energy, but you don't turn it off. You keep letting it flow, but you have to set up those assets in advance. And this is not just for the average speaker. This is for every speaker. And this is why this is why it's so important to build out and to strategize for a multi-revenue business. So that way, when they go to your social profile, they have opportunities to experience you. And it's more than just, even with your Talkadot, like let's say you have a Talkadot or a Talks profile, and you collected the emails and you got all this great result. Okay, now what? Like, what are you dripping out every week through your newsletter or think letter? that is going to say, oh man, I'd love to do a strategy session. I'd love to join their community. I'd love to join. Like, what are you doing to drip that out? And once again, that requires being proactive. So there's a lot of content you have to create on top of your speaking content before you even get on the stage if you're trying to create a multi-revenue business. Does that help?
I love that. Yeah, that does, man. Like I really appreciate it. That's cool, super cool, and that I resonate with that a lot because um yesterday early this morning one of my latest book was just published on Amazon, and the title of the book is How to Break Through into the International Speaking World, and so when I was writing this book together with my team, we're asking ourselves, apart from selling this book on Amazon, on on our conferences around the world, how else can we be able to make money from this book? And together with the team, we decided to create a course, how to break through into the international speaking world with a book, So with the book is on Amazon, we're selling the book, and at the same time, we have a course we're selling, almost the same content. Now, most of my like 70% of my income as a professional speaker is not from keynote speaking now. I do a lot of trainings and coaching, and I have a lot of books out there in the market selling, and that is actually where I make more of my income. Unlike the keynotes and all of that. And again, I'm not very interested on keynote, but I just do that because one of my services is doing conferences, and when I do conferences, I speak. And what you said is actually so powerful that before some speakers realize this, it might be late for them to catch up. And if this approach, if many people who are not using this approach, they might never be tempted to extinct, you know what I mean? Like extinct, like disappear from the scene. And that's why we brought you. That's why we brought you to talk about this thing. And so, Sonia, let us know. Tell our guys. When you started your speaking career a couple of years ago, probably there are some things you wish you knew immediately when you started, and those things you know right now. So, what are maybe just one or two? What are those things that you will love our audience to know and start doing now that you just realize maybe the yesterday, yesterweek, yestermonth, yesteryear, that they are the things they have to do every single second, minutes, hour, day, week, month. Yeah.
I'd say your time as a speaker becomes very precious because you actually spend a lot of time will be spending a lot of time creating great content. And to your point, if you're just relying on AI, there is a backlash that's already happening, but it's happening in subtle ways. Like at the end of the day, it's not, okay, I'm going to have AI write all my stuff. Then you're not original. At some point, the creatives, there's going to be a massive difference between the copy paste people and those who are creating interesting original perspective and content. And I like to use AI as a springboard, a creative springboard. It is incredible. Yep. And yes, it can write. I look at it as, at least for me, my rule is about 80-20. Let AI write about 20% or give me ideas. And I like to write the other 80%, because here's the thing. When you write as an individual, you are tapping into the human experience. You are tapping into human emotions. You are tapping into how people are feeling right now today that AI right now does not do. Yeah. It doesn't do that. So as far as, how to spend your time and what to do immediately, like I said, your time has to be spent strategizing first. What is your strategy? Roadmap it out. And I like to use the phrase, and then what? The day you stop answering the question, and then what? So your team had a perfect example. We launched a book. And then what's next, right? And then what?
Yeah.
Okay, I launched a book, and then what? Okay, we got a course. And then what? Okay, someone goes through the course, and then what? So as long as you keep asking, and then what? I spoke on stage. Okay, and then what? So that gives you, what? And then what is always about leading people the next step forward. You can't assume they're going to know what to do. They don't know what to do. That's why they're looking to you. And so that's one thing. Planning, strategizing, and then creating that, basically that content, and then what offer roadmap. You have to spend time doing that. And I find that if you dedicate your, do a big, massive pause, because it takes about 30 days to really dial it in, right? The first week you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then reality is going to hit week 2. Okay, I got to pay for the designer. I got to pay for this. I got to pay for that. But week 2, reality kicks in. And then week 3, you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to start with first. And then week 4, you start creating and you start going. That's usually the cycle. And so once you're through the strategy, planning, creating, the other thing you have to do is post content daily. Like at the end of the day, the minimum is 6 times a week. The maximum can be you could do multiple posts per day. But at the very least, it's 6 times plus per week. And that's where having tools to, whether you're using Hootsuite, Buffer, Social Nomos, whatever you're using, you got to line that up. And depending on how real time your content is, some of us have content that we have to literally create, maybe like the max we can create out is 1 or 2 weeks, because so much of what we do is based on what's happening real time. So I can't do, I can't do 6 months of content, because what I focus on when it comes to multi-revenue business, it's also about what's going on right now, this month, right, in the economy, what's happening in the world. So I don't know what's going to happen 16 months out. And so just know how real time is your content, and then plan accordingly. And so being able to post daily, but it's not posting, here's what I'm doing, like the days of posting where you're eating and where you're vacationing and traveling, especially on LinkedIn. Okay. And so let's talk a bit about what's actually happening in social right now. So the days, and this is so hard for people to get, because look, you go and you see somebody's numbers. Oh my gosh, they got 5,000, 10,000, especially on LinkedIn. So let's speak to LinkedIn, right? You got 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, and you're just getting started, and you got 500, and you're feeling bad. Like, oh man, if I had the 5,000, the 10,000 followers, I would be so much better. I'd be so much better off. And I say yes and no, because the way the algorithms are working is less than 10% of your audience will see your posts, period. So when you look at someone who has 10,000, just know less than 10% of their audience sees their posts. So everyone's technically on the same playing field with percentage wise. It's 10%. It's less than that. I'm just being generous. If you actually knew the real numbers, you probably will go do something else, because the real numbers are super depressing. But at the end of the day, what I love about LinkedIn is it's a quality audience. You're not just dealing with randoms. You're not dealing with fake accounts. These are CEOs. These are VPs. These are directors. These are meeting planners, where we all put our resume. So if you go back, I started my LinkedIn account because it was a part of a homework assignment for extra credit. So that was back in 2005. So I've been on LinkedIn since 2005. And so, my gosh, 20 years. Ooh, that's intense. But it was a resume platform. This is where you go to get a job. Now it's an official social media news channel. You can make it what you want. But at the end of the day, when you're posting, especially on LinkedIn, think about it. Who are the people that are on LinkedIn? I call us, we're sliders. We are the PowerPoint generation. Think about that. Look, we've sat in meetings for most of our careers looking at PowerPoint presentations. So I was like, LinkedIn, we love ourselves some PowerPoints. We love ourselves some slides. Give us a slide and we're all into it. And so just recognizing it's one of the last text platforms. Yes, they're getting in the video, but at the end of the day, you're communicating your ideas on a daily basis. And when you're communicating, I look at it as it's conversational content, which means it's you language, not me language, you language as far as your audience. And the other thing is you're breaking down problems. You're showing the pain, but you're also showing what pain relief looks like. And that's so hard for so many people. It's like, no, speak to the pain. And because you're also, this is the other thing, because you're now a CEO, you're a leader of your business, show up like one. So many show up like they're a sales, they're a sales executive or an associate. I say you're not an associate at Sprint selling flip phones. So You're not just some regular associate at Walmart, like restocking shelves. You're a CEO of a company, so show up powerfully. And so that's where some make the mistake that they're almost like in this like begging, pleading zone. And it's like, no, show up, because at the end of the day, the people who want what you have to offer will show up. They will engage with you. But here's the thing. You have to lead them forward, and it can't be with pitching, because what they're going to do is they're going to just basically ghost watch. So a lot of people's feelings are getting hurt right now because they're not getting the comments, likes and loves and thumbs up. That doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't even show up in our feed. It's really only comments that we even see. And so just know that people will be ghost watching you. They'll be watching and watching and watching and watching. And then one day, boom, it goes.
There we go. There we go. And Sonia, that is a powerful gem there. Honestly speaking, let me be real. Of like 90% of my clients, they are not coming from Facebook. They're not coming from Instagram. They're not coming from YouTube. They're not coming from TikTok. Guys, they're coming from LinkedIn.
Yep.
And you are a member of the National Speakers Association Texas chapter. I am a member of the National Speakers Association Minnesota chapter. And when I came in, when there was this opportunity to volunteer as a content engagement strategy for the National Speakers Association Minnesota chapter, I immediately shut up and I started volunteering, and I've been working with the national speakers to do content engagement for LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and there's something I noticed. Most of the speakers I interact with here in Minnesota, most of them, they are more active on LinkedIn than in any other social media platform.
Yeah.
Now, the question I have for you, Sonia, is this: what advice or recommendation can you give to the speakers watching us right now, even those who will be watching this podcast after, on what strategy they should deploy in each of the social media platforms they are on? For instance, LinkedIn, what strategy should they really be focusing on or leveraging on LinkedIn? What strategy should they be leveraging on YouTube? What strategies should they be leveraging on Instagram? Like for those who are on TikTok. Now, I'm excited you are in all of these platforms I just named. Number two, I also wanted to look at what are the must-have AI tools that every speaker must know how to use. What are the must-have AI tools that every speaker must know how to use in order to get the result they're looking forward? Because speakers go through a lot of times when they don't have gigs and when they don't have clients showing up.
So, okay, so you asked two questions. They're both big loaded questions. So let's, strategy takes time because, so let's talk about strategy. And it's not, you can't go down the road of what should I be doing on a platform until you know who's your target audience, what pain are they in, and how do you solve that pain? I can't tell you how many speakers can't answer those three questions. Who's your audience? Business owners of what? Like that's the whole globe, right? Like of what, right? Like, I help women do what? So you have to know your target audience down to the core, like super, super niche. And then once you know who the audience is, what's their pain? What are their problems that you solve? Because they may have a lot of pains and problems you don't solve, but you do solve one very specific one. And so once you have that, that's where all your content then gets hyper specific. Content becomes easy when you know your audience and you know their pain. If you don't know who your audience is, and it's everybody, if you don't know what their pain is, and it's all the pains, content is so difficult, you are not going to survive. Like you will burn out because no one's responding. Yeah, that's right. Because nobody knows who you're talking to. Like you can't treat your business like you're Amazon. You're not Amazon. Treat your business like you're Apple, like you're Louis Vuitton. You're very specific about who you serve and what you do and how well you do it. And so from there, then yes, every platform has a different vibe and feel and look to it, but it's best to start with one or two first, before you expand, because at the end of the day, you can spend a lot of time shifting content to match all the platforms. I personally, I specifically create content for LinkedIn and YouTube. And then I just post whatever I do all to the other networks, but I don't get super specific about what's going on LinkedIn. I said, look, here's what I posted on YouTube and LinkedIn, and I just put it out to the world because I'm not super active on those channels. And I also know that all my leads pretty much come from LinkedIn. And here's the thing with YouTube. So even with YouTube, my goal with YouTube is not to actually become monetized by YouTube. So many people start a YouTube channel because they want to become monetized by YouTube. And yes, but that's a hard game. You should have started that back in 2010, because you would have grown faster. In 2025, you have to have a different strategy. The reason I show up on YouTube is because I'm thinking about my audience. They're going to see me on LinkedIn. They're going to want to see some videos. They're going to want to see me live. Great. My YouTube channel has all my videos. You can see me. You can see any kind of speaking I've done. You can see my thought leadership. You can see what I focus on. So I look at YouTube as an extension of LinkedIn to say, here are full videos, not little shorts, full videos of how I strategize, how I think, what I share. And so I use that as really my, it's a part of your, I guess you could say, sales generator. It's a part of how people get to love and like you and see you. And then from there, you can, once you master LinkedIn and YouTube, then you can go and say, okay, I want to refine my strategy for Facebook and other channels, but keep it simple, keep it down to 2. And like I said, LinkedIn is slideshow nation. So people actually respect. It's interesting because I've been testing, especially this year. I've tested shorts. I've tested videos that just have captions, but nothing of me. And what I find is that what gets the best response and what gets the most views is a single image post with big words on it, or a carousel within one idea to think about. Carousels and image posts do the best. So LinkedIn is still very highly static visual, like they can slide through a carousel, or they can see an image post that either is a quote, it's a maybe it's an idea that you elaborate on, but it's still held in one image. That seems to do a lot better than just the LinkedIn crowd, at least from what I'm seeing. Unless you're big, like if you got the 1 million+ followers, you can do anything. That's the crazy part. The 1 million+ followers, you can post at any time, do anything. It doesn't matter. When you're starting small, you have to be super niche. So for instance, on LinkedIn, I've heard people say, post at 7:30 in the morning, post at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you have a small following, just look at your impressions. It's going to take all day to get maybe 10 to 12 to 50 impressions because your audience is too small and they're not paying attention to you at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. But so if you're small, you have to show up when people are most active. So that's usually around the lunch hour, and that's usually end of day. So I was playing with a lot of different time frames, and I was finding that if you're large, and I've worked with some accounts that have like millions of followers. If you're large, you can post pretty much any time of the day, and people are going to see you. But if you're small, you got to show up when people are very active. You can't just show up at any random time. And think about it. If you're dealing with CEO, like think about their life and their schedule. You're dealing with a CEO or a leader. They're not hanging out on LinkedIn just randomly at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're in a meeting. They're planning. They're working with clients. So you either got to show up at lunchtime or basically end of day. So basically like after 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So these are the nuances that, so I'll say this. Only when you start posting daily and you start testing, you can't do set it and forget it. Oh, I posted every day at 7 and nothing happened. Okay. Nothing happened at 7. What happens at 12? Do that for a week. Okay. Nothing happens at 12. What happened at 3? Oh, you got some responses. So you have to, ultimately, we are all focused on understanding our audience and how they move and interact with us. And we are all going to have hyper unique, tailored businesses. There is no more cookie cutter. If I show up the way Oliver shows up, and if I post when Oliver posts, the same results are going to happen for me. No, they're not. Everyone's going to have a unique model.
Okay. I love that. And so what are the top AI must-have tools that you would recommend to our listeners?
Must have AI tool. I mean, at the end of the day, having, I said the very basic, having a chat, paying for a chat, having a paid chat,
Yeah.
a paid chat subscription to
Yep.
Chat GPT. That's a must. One, the graphics, the research, how far chat has come is incredible.
Yeah.
I also like Claude. Claude's incredible as well. They're with Anthropic. Claude AI does an incredible job. I would say even using Perplexity for like high level research, they're great as well. And I'm focusing on the large models because everybody has an AI extension. Like pretty much every tech platform has some kind of AI aspect to it. But at the end of the day, you need to know your audience. You need to be creating content for your audience, and the large models do that very well. And so start there. And yes, the idea of becoming a prompt engineer, it is how you ask the questions, and you can't say, "Oh, come up with a course for me." No, you got to get super specific. Come up with a course for this audience with this pain. And so I believe in starting with the big ones first. And then once you start getting some traction, because the whole thing is that you have to continually test and say, I'm putting this out there, what happens? I'm putting this out there, what happens? And it's always, I call it launch, listen, what's the feedback, then leverage that feedback, review, relaunch. And so it's so fascinating how so many, I find so many founders and speakers, they just want to just show up. Oh, I did this one or two things, and then, people should respond. No, you have to be so proactive and consistent, and you have to know your people. And if you don't know your people, this is going to be hard because this is a real business. The days of posting and everybody sees it, those are over.
Yeah, I love that. And some people might also be thinking of considering Canvas for quick picture editing, and maybe checking video editing app. I don't know which one you use. So
Canva, easy, right? I mean, Canva is doing an incredible job too. I like Canva for for some of the graphics that I do, but I still use Adobe Creative Suite because there's some next level things that Adobe does great. Awesome. There's also with video editing, if you're in Mac, when I say video recording, if you're with Mac, I love Ecamm Live. That's my fave to be able to do recording. And then when you want to do editing, just find everything from who is it? A CapCut. CapCut is doing an incredible job. They, they're the creators of TikTok, so they know that it's important. So if you want a good option, start with CapCut. And then go from there. And depending on how, depending on how intense you want your design and editing to be. But invest in a great microphone and go from there.
Awesome. So as we wrapped up and draw the curtains of this very interesting conversation, Sonia, as a student of the National Speakers Association, I think I'll be graduating next month, and we had a visiting lecturer, Lois Creamer. I think you should know Lois Creamer. She's a big name in the speaking industry. So she's very popular. She's very known for the positioning statement, which is so powerful. I believe that every speaker should know. So, for instance, as somebody who helps speakers to get national, international, and global gigs, I really work with individuals who want to cross borders, speak in different countries, helping them to shine on stages. That's my positioning statement. So I would love, our listeners may love to know your positioning statement and see how they could get you to speak in their conferences and training their corporate events. Who knows? So what's your positioning statement, even as we wrapped up?
Here, what my positioning statement? It's interesting. Because I look at it as, again, it's almost like, the new elevator pitch. And so I speak to this, that if you're a speaker that wants to get paid beyond the stage and you want to create a multi-revenue business that gives you the ability to have an incredible lifestyle, but also make an impact, I'm the person to talk to. So I
Oh,
look at it like that.
I love that.
I'm the person to
Good
talk
job.
to,
Mhm.
because one of the things I hope to have communicated is that the days of just winging it and hopeful wishing or just not being fully committed. You have to be fully committed to yourself,
Yeah.
and I find it fascinating how there are times I've worked with clients and I'm more committed to their success than they are. And then when I
Mhm.
come to realize that, and this is all about the growth process. In the beginning, I'd be like, oh my gosh, you got to get it together. This is so cool. But I realized,
Yep.
nope, if I'm more committed to you than you are to you, we can't work together. And so
Yep.
part of being a speaker is knowing when to say no, knowing when that client, that consulting or coaching client is actually not a good fit for you. Also knowing that it's important to have strategy. And what I find is that strategy is so difficult because there's so many things you can do. There are so many tactics and funnels and hacks and here's how we can get clients
Yes.
and let's do lead gen. There are I would say like hundreds of thousands of microwaves you can grow your business. But ultimately, what ends up happening when you look at it, and I've looked at enough businesses, is everyone becomes unique. But there is a framework that you can start with.
Mhm.
And then from that framework, you review, you listen, you refine, you understand your audience. And within, if you're dedicated, I would say within 12 to 18 months, you could have a hyper niche specific business that basically you end up creating results that are hard to copy. Because if
Wow.
you're a speaker and you're talking about, let's say you're talking about AI, you're talking about leadership. So many people talk about AI and leadership.
Yeah.
So you're now a commodity. But if you're able to listen to your audience and really fine tune how you show up, what ends up happening is you create. This is why the quiet time is needed. This is why you need to create more content, because ultimately your content allows you to create results that can't be copied. See, it's not about can someone copy your topic. They can copy your topic, but can they copy your results? Can they copy your transformation? If they can't copy that, then you know you are in the baller zone, the unstoppable zone. But if anybody can
Yep.
copy your results, oh yeah, I can do what Oliver does. Oh my gosh, then Oliver,
Yep.
you're gonna be doing speaking gigs for $500. Right? No.
Awesome. No. Yeah. Thank you. So, as a founder, CEO, and Talks is an amazing platform that together with my team we built, and is serving speakers in the United States, in Africa, in Asia, Europe, all around the world. And so we have this as one of our mission. We every single year we organize a bigger event in any country. And for this year, we're starting in the United States of America, and we are coming to Sonia Dumas State, Texas. So on the 21st of June, 2025, like this year, I'm talking about in 1.5 months, we are going to be launching our first ever Talks event. And it's a purpose conference. And the theme is monetizing your purpose as a speaker, as a thought leader, as a corporate trainer, as a coach, whoever you are. How can you monetize your purpose and generate passive income from that? And we are honored to have Sonia Domis as one of our keynote speaker for this upcoming conference. And Sonia, just in one single sentence or phrase, what are your expectations for this event?
I expect that speakers will walk away with such clarity and confidence about their business that the rest of the year will be game changing for you.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
welcome.
today, just 12 hours from now, we are going to be launching ticket sales for the Purpose Conference 2025, Dallas, Texas edition. It is the premier event, premier conference. And if you are around the United States and you've listened to this podcast and you heard Sonia Dumas shared her thought leadership thoughts on purpose, content, social media, speaking, making profit, not keeping money on the tables, this is your event. And so stay tuned. We're going to be sharing with you how you can get tickets for this event. And we have tickets for every single person, be it a VIP, be it a solopreneur, be it a classic, whatever you want. You definitely get a ticket for it. So, Sonia, do you have any last word, even as we close the curtains of this conversation, please?
You know what? Join the event. I'll see you at the event. And you just know that the pie is, people talk about, we can all create a bigger pie. I said, no, it's an infinite pie. There is no how I get sliced. How do you get a slice of infinity? Pick your place. Take as much as you want.
I love that. Pick your place. Take as much as you want. And that was it for today, our dear listener, dear viewer, wherever you are around the world. So if you are listening out of the United States, this podcast, we also have good news for you for this event. We're going to be having virtual tickets, so you can actually attend the event virtually. You don't necessarily have to be in the room, but if you are around the United States, Canada, Mexico, you have to do everything to be in the hall to listen to more of these speakers. We'll be having speakers from Canada, Irene, speakers from Maryland, Ellen Ubi, speakers from Texas, and a couple of other speakers flying from different parts of the world. And so this was the Global Speakers Advantage, your number one podcast that gives you information and ideas and strategies and frameworks on how to get national, international, and global speaking gigs and then shine on the stage. And until we see again, the next rendezvous is on Tuesday, and we're going to be talking something around customer service as professional speakers. And thank you so much, Sonia Dumas. It was such an honor, such a privilege, such a blessing to have you as our guest for this premiere edition. Thank you so much. And happy
Loved
Easter.
It. All right. Loved it.
Thank you, man. Happy Easter to everybody, and looking forward to see you at the top. My name is Oliver and Sonia.